Hey, Breaking Points, Marshall here. Here's a clip of an episode that Saagar and I did on our podcast, The Realignment. We spoke with Matthew Continetti. He's the author of a new book. It's called The Right. It's all about the past, present, and future of the conservative movement. So if you're looking to understand how the right's going to respond to Roe v. Wade getting overturned possibly, to debates about Twitter, Trump in 2024, lots of great stuff. Enjoy this clip. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel in the link below. Hope you like it.
I want you to weigh in on a really interesting debate that has kind of taken the American political scene in the last couple of days. Maybe our editor can put this up there on the screen, but I'm sure you've seen it, Matt. It is the meme that Elon Musk tweeted out about left, center, and right. And for those who are just listening, I'll do my best to describe it. It says that in 2008, there was left, there was center, and there was right. And the person who appears in the center is on the left of center. In 2012, that person looks as if they're slightly more towards the center, as the quote unquote, my fellow liberal is much more to the left. Then it shows another person in 2021 with a conservative standing in the exact same place that they have been since 2008, a person who is now center towards the center right, and then somebody all the way to the left who says woke progressive and that they're a bigot. So I think this describes a couple of things to me. Number one is the phenomena of asymmetric polarization, as in people who are left leaning have become much more dogmatically left. However, at the same time, people who are on the right, I don't think it's entirely fair to say, while yes, maybe holding some of the same policy decisions, clearly there is a phenomena of paranoid, of populism, which doesn't necessarily have a policy platform, but is manifesting itself. But we do find exactly what you're talking about here, this new center. I've kind of taken Matthew Walther's moniker and really run with it, the idea of the Barstool conservative, somebody who is animated by fights about political correctness, critical race theory, trans ideology in school, but does not necessarily care about abortion or gay marriage, and in fact may even be nominally pro-choice and pro-gay marriage, and yet culturally center right in the context of the 2022 debates. How do you think that that new coalition is going to affect the policy direction of the right going forward, given the fact that something that you have written about, and I actually completely agree with you, is that a real coming to heads for the GOP is the upcoming Dobbs decision, where it's extraordinarily likely that Roe versus Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court, which could really put at odds new voters who are right wing with the traditional conservative movement. So I know I just threw a lot at you. Take of that whatever you want.
Oh, thank you. So there's so much there. Maybe I'll attack it in reverse order. I would say that with Dobbs and Roe v. Wade, there were many writers, including me, who, when Texas passed their fetal heartbeat bill in September, basically outlawing abortion in Texas, I said at the time, hold it. Did the Texas Republicans just hand Biden and Obama an issue in the off-year elections? And I was closely following the election in Virginia, where I live, and I had thought for a while at that point that Glenn Youngkin could win, and so I was wondering whether this might affect it. There was no blowback.
Yeah, there wasn't.
Abortion has basically been illegal in Texas since last September, almost for a year. There's no blowback. Greg Abbott is sailing to re-election. So that's,
and if Matthew McConaughey had run and beat him, it would not have been because of abortion.
I mean, and of course McConaughey won't run because he wants to remain a popular figure, as a unifying figure in American culture. So I'd say right now, and of course I was wrong in September. I could be wrong now, but I am actually undervaluing the chances of an electoral blowback because of a reversal of Roe, if it happens. Now, that doesn't mean to say that the Democrats and the media won't try to make the election about abortion. And this is where I think abortion politics cuts against the GOP often. It's one thing to say you're against Roe v. Wade, and there are many reasons to be against Roe v. Wade. It's one thing to say you're pro-life. There are many reasons to be pro-life. It's when you get down to the details, right? And even these heartbeat bills, which I support, that the opinion can change, can be polarized on, or can be contested. But then when you look at, say, candidates in 2012 in the Senate, for example, people like Todd Aiken making these comments about legitimate rape, things like that, in reference to abortion, that can definitely hurt a candidate. So that could happen. But overall, I don't think the blowback from a road reversal will be that big. The second thing would be the Barstool conservatives and its relation to that meme that Elon posted. And I just like how Elon now, all he has to do is post a meme and all of America starts talking about it. I mean, that is Trumpian. I have to just say, I mean, that is, why are we not talking about Elon potentially running for president 2020?
Because he was born in South Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
He would have,
there you go.
Yeah,
thank you for the reminder.
Say, if he
was American, he would run and he would win.
He would not have bought Twitter. He would have run in 2024. Like, that's obviously,
or he would have done both. But yes, thank you for that reminder. In fact, I was just taping an interview, and someone played me the clip from MSNBC recently that said that he wants to go back to apartheid in South Africa. I mean, oh my God. Anyway, so that's just on his cultural power, which is astonishing. I think there's something to that graph. Look, everyone recognizes this phenomenon called the Great Awakening. I pin it to Ta-Nehisi Coates' case for reparations in 2014.
100% agree. Yep.
This is the power of ideas. Something happened. Now that essay, of course, and ideas have to kind of hang on events, right? So it's Trayvon Martin, it's Ferguson, it's the case for reparations, it's 12 Years a Slave, right? It's all coming out at the time. Something on the left changes, and suddenly white progressives become more radical on race issues than most Black Americans. I mean, that's present in the public opinion data. And that's propelling these woke liberals, most of whom are white, to the left, right? And that is continues to shape our politics. I mean, it's partly why Trump won. People hate to be called racist, and if the message from all of our major cultural institutions 24/7 is that a majority of this country is racist, or this is a racist society, you are handing the Republicans the keys to Congress and the White House. That's just the case. I would say, though, you're right, Saagar, to point out that for the conservative outline or figure in that meme, if you asked the issue positions, I don't think they've gone to the right that much.
Right.
Attitudinally, however, they've become more extreme. So the sense that we have to fight, or the idea that America is on the verge of collapse or civil war, the openness to conspiracy theories, the openness to strongmen, that all I think has changed since 2012. But even though the substance it hasn't, and it's something that we saw in Trump as early as 2015. Especially before he became president, when he was very heterodox on some questions, like single-payer healthcare, for example, right? If you just looked at his policies, he was actually kind of a moderate business Republican. But then, of course, you listen to Trump, and he's not that at all. He's outlandish, he's boisterous, braggadocious, all of these things. And that, I think, speaks for a lot of people on the right today.
Two things. One, that speaks to, I think, the useful way you broke down Elon's meme, because what the meme misses is it's just focused on, once again, center-right, left identity, not institutional parties and membership in the parties. So I think people who identify as Republicans, quote unquote, which doesn't fit the Barstool person that Saagar is talking about, doesn't fit Iwan. I think they have clearly gotten more extreme in those functions. But that's a different question than the pure, let's put every single policy outcome on possible. That has shifted. The right has not shifted to the right, and it has shifted left. So I agree with that. So here's my question then, and this gets to the question of whether or not recent Republican victories in the social sphere are going to be impacted by Roe v. Wade being overturned or not, which is Republican success dependent on Democrats or just progressives, liberals, leftists, whatever, overreaching beyond the cultural sediment we could describe in 2015, AKA gay marriage is legal, abortion is legal in blue states, it's going to be severely impacted in red states, but still Roe v. Wade isn't overturned. Trans bathroom bills are aligned too far for corporations. They say no to that, and there's very little like big backlash. It actually, before the vice presidential thing, it actually his attempt to pass it like severely damages Mike Pence's presidential campaign in 2015. So is there a world where if Republicans start moving beyond that 2015 settlement, they then get in trouble? Is basically the way I'd ask the question, because that's what you can say the Democrats are doing. Like the things that we're talking about, Glenn Youngkin, it's okay, we're moving a step beyond what we saw as consensus in 2015. Could that happen to the right?
It's a great way to frame the question. I think I view it a little bit differently. I agree that Republicans' biggest victories in the post-World War II era have been the result of progressive overreach. It's been the result of the faults of the left, not the merits of the right. Mm-hmm. And then that becomes the question of, does the right have an agenda that will be able to prove to voters that voters made the right choice? Or will they overreach? So if I look at the rise of Richard Nixon, that's the result of, as I get into in the book, the decomposition of the Democratic Party over Vietnam, over the rights revolutions, over the counterculture. If we look at Ronald Reagan's, it's because the world basically falls apart in 1979 with stagflation, with the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, with the Iranian hostage crisis, Jimmy Carter's perceived incompetence, all of these things. If you look at the Republican Revolution in Congress in 1994, same thing. Clinton runs as a new Democrat in 1992 and then begins governing from the left, and the public repudiates him in 1994. And it's the same, I think, with the Tea Party Congresses in 2010. Obama runs as this unifying representative of a rising generation of Americans, a 21st century cosmopolitan America that will move beyond the Bush legacy. And he comes to power, and it's revealed that he actually has a very ideological view of the world and an agenda he wants to pursue, whether the public agrees with it or not. And that gets us 2010 and 2014. So I think we're set up in 2022 for a major Republican year. Major, because what did we see? We saw Biden win basically an anti-mandate in 2020. His anti-mandate is to not be Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all Biden had to do, was not be Trump. But instead, his grandchildren and John Meacham convinced him that he is FDR and LBJ combined. And so he decided that he was going to govern like Elizabeth Warren, even though he had run as not Trump. And the result is the inflation. The result is the border. The result is everything going wrong, the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle. And so once again, Republicans are in a position where they're going to make major gains because of Democratic and progressive overreach. And the question will remain, will the Republicans have an agenda? Will they be able to moderate expectations of their own voters of what is possible in divided government that will give them the opportunity to build on 2022 and 2024? I have to say, based on my study of history, I'm not very optimistic, but I do think the GOP is set up for a good year this year.